Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Andrzej. Defense officials from some 50 countries are gathering in Brussels NATO headquarters today for the 27th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, also known as the Ramstein Group. We go live now to our EU correspondent Alex Kadir to get the latest. Hello, Alex. What's on the agenda today? What can we expect?
Well, we had a meeting yesterday of the Coalition of the Willing, this group of countries wanting to support Ukraine after peace comes, if it comes and when it comes. Today is the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. Sounds similar, actually quite different. The focus for the nations here at NATO HQ today is very much to address the immediate needs of the Ukrainian armed forces, of Ukraine as a country. And that's what we've heard from John Healey, the UK Defence Secretary, announcing this morning a £450 million, around 470 million euro package of support for Ukraine. That includes British money and Norwegian money for things like drones. Hundreds of thousands of drones will be bought with this money, anti-tank mines and other equipment that the Ukrainian military needs, as well as maintenance, money to maintain the equipment the UK has already given Ukraine, clearly addressing these day-to-day needs from NATO allies. That is a clear priority here. Now, there was a big question, as there always is at these meetings since the Trump administration. What will the US do? That is the question. And there was a real concern that Pete Hegseth, the US Defense Secretary, wouldn't even bother attending at all. I'll remind you that the Ukraine Defense Contact Group was set up with 50 nations by the United States. Now we understand the Defense Secretary will be dialing in remotely. He won't be here in person, but clearly that withdrawal of US support and continued support for Ukraine very high on the agenda today at NATO.
Alex Kadir with the latest update concerning this upcoming summit, which is going to be of considerable importance for Ukraine and its capacity to fight back. Alex, thank you very much for this update. And now we're moving on to our next story. Robert Pszczell, senior fellow at the Center for Eastern Studies, told TVP World that Americans who are in the driver's seat have given no indication that they would be militarily involved in Ukraine. This statement comes just as the defense ministers from 30 countries in the Coalition of the Willing, led by France and Britain, met at the NATO headquarters in Brussels, with the US being noticeable by its absence.
If there were to be some form of an agreement, for which most people, myself included, would say we're still very far away, the Americans, who are, again, I repeat, in the driving seat politically, have clearly indicated they don't want to be part of this militarily, certainly when it comes to any sort of forces on the ground, and perhaps even more. And secondly, they've also indicated they don't want NATO to be actually coordinating this. So the fact that this meeting that we can see, I know this place, this is NATO headquarters, but NATO in this case is providing, I would say, unfortunately, only the venue.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has announced a new sanctions package targeting Russia's shadow fleet. His statement coincides with a proposed US law also targeting Moscow's fleet of ships, which was introduced by a bipartisan group of senators on the 9th of April.
I have also instructed lawmakers to draft new Ukrainian sanctions packages. Our security services have provided appropriate justification. These will be strong sanctions targeting the shadow tanker fleet Moscow uses to finance the war, targeting war propagandists who try to weaken our defense and support Russia, and also targeting some officials, names well known to all Ukrainians who once held influence. Preparations for relevant bills are ongoing, and everything will be rolled out step by step. We are also working to synchronize these Ukrainian sanctions packages with the decisions of our partners, especially in the European Union and other key jurisdictions around the world.
US Ambassador to Ukraine Bridget Brink will be leaving her post ahead of the scheduled end of her tenure. The reports were confirmed by the US State Department late Thursday evening. According to sources in the Trump administration, Ambassador Brink has not yet formally submitted her resignation. At the same time, over the past day, she has reportedly been making farewell calls to her colleagues. As per one unnamed senior US official, her resignation stems from a mix of personal and policy concerns, including recent layoffs in the US aid agency. Moreover, Brink has been stationed for the past 3 years in a war zone, where diplomats serve without bringing their families along. A Russian-American woman who was freed in a prisoner exchange has arrived in the United States. Prior to her release, she had been sentenced to 12 years in a Russian prison for donating to a Ukrainian charity. Ksenia Karelina is a dual citizen whom a Russian court found guilty last year of treason for donating just over $50 to a US-based charity providing humanitarian support to Kiev. The 34-year-old ballerina was returned to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where she was met by her loved ones. Karelina was exchanged for a dual German-Russian citizen, Arthur Petrov, whom the US authorities accused of masterminding a global smuggling ring to harvest sensitive electronics for Russia's military. The exchange took place at an airport in Abu Dhabi after US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff raised her case with Vladimir Putin during a call last week. Ukrainian military analysts report that Russian forces have made advances in the east of the country, capturing villages in the Donetsk and Dnipro regions. Local media say that around 125 clashes occurred between Ukrainian and Russian forces, with Moscow's troops gaining ground near 4 settlements in the Donetsk region. Meanwhile, emergency crews are clearing debris in the south-central town of Ozerne after a Thursday evening drone strike killed 1 person there. The local governor said the attack on an apartment block wounded 5 others, including a child. The strike tore the facade of 1 building and damaged 4 others. The agreement between the European Union and Ukraine for free passage of Ukrainian trucks has been extended through the end of 2025. The agreement allows for the smoother transit of Ukrainian goods through EU countries, improving the war-torn countries' access to the world market. Under the agreement, Ukrainian cargo can enter the European Union without special transport permits. Originally set to expire on the 30th of June, the deal that was put in place shortly after the onset of Russia's full-scale invasion will now be extended by the European Commission. Besides facilitating Ukrainian exports, the agreement also enables the transport of crucial goods, such as fuel and humanitarian aid. In Poland's capital, Warsaw, European ministers of trade and finance have gathered for an informal 2-day meeting. The summit, held at Warsaw's historic Citadel, is chaired by Polish Minister of Finance Andrzej Domański. We are joined live now by our reporter Aleksandra Marchewicz. Hello, Aleksandra. So what can we expect from this meeting? What is going to be at the top of the agenda?
Heated debate are definitely going to take place in Warsaw. Day one now of the discussions is to center on how to respond to U.S. tariffs. And now the ministers that we managed to hear at the doorstep mentioned that definitely calm and cooperation is on top of the agenda. Now, while Brussels welcomes Washington's recent move to delay some tariffs, the message here in Warsaw is quite clear that Europe must stand firm but do not escalate. And Poland's finance minister Andrzej Domański definitely echoed this call for unity, saying that this is the moment for cooperation and definitely not confrontation.
We do know that we need to take more responsibility for our own security. We need to spend more on defense, but we also need to spend wisely. We need to collaborate, we need to join our efforts to make Europe secure again. And this is why I'm really happy that the European Commission has proposed a rearm package, and it will be also discussed during our meeting tomorrow. I believe that we are all observing kind of European awakening, both in terms of security, but also in terms of our economical position.
to bring you some highlights from the doorstep that I managed to gather. Now, Spanish Finance Minister, for instance, mentioned and reminded us that the pause now in the tariffs is only partial, as mind you, there remains a 25% tariff still on steel, aluminium and the automotive sector. So, to quote him, we must move towards a negotiated agreement, one that is fair and balanced. When it comes to tomorrow, as this meeting is going to continue, now on a different topic, that is defence, now where ministers will discuss now how to finance Europe's rearmament plans and support a broader shift towards strategic autonomy. More to come here on TVP World. Now, back to you.
Aleksandra Marchewicz bringing us the latest update from this summit here in Warsaw. Aleksandra, thank you very much for being here with us today. Now we're moving on to our next story. Croatian Prime Minister Andrzej has urged the Serbian government to explain why it expelled 3 Croatian citizens. The official condemned the move and said his country expects clarification over the, quote, unacceptable practice. Plenković went on to dismiss claims made by Serbia that the 3 Croatians had been interfering in Serbian internal politics. The most recent and highly publicized case, Croatian doctor Arjen Stojanović Ivković, was deemed, and I quote again, an unacceptable security risk. She was given a week to leave the country and barred from entering Serbia for 1 year. In the aftermath of the expulsion, the Croatian Prime Minister said he notified the European Union about the incident involving Serbia, a candidate to join the bloc. According to the Croatian government, some 32 cases of expulsions or bans on entering Serbia have been recorded in recent months. Six people, including 3 children, were killed when a sightseeing helicopter crashed into New York's Hudson River on Thursday afternoon. The helicopter reportedly plunged into the water inverted, without a tail rotor or a main rotor blade. Emergency services sprang into action immediately after the accident, but no survivors have been found. The victims include a family of Spanish tourists, 2 adults and 3 children, as well as a 36-year-old pilot. The US National Transportation Safety Board is currently looking into the cause of the tragedy. Polish football squad Legia Warsaw lost 3-0 to Chelsea in the first leg of the Europa Conference League quarter-finals on Thursday. After losing the match in Warsaw, the Poles will now travel to the UK, where they will play the second leg against Chelsea on the 17th of April.
It was like just a different type of football, different type of level, and obviously it's a bit annoying, to lose like this, because I think we could do much better on the ball. In my opinion, we give them the ball like too easily, and they use it really, really well.
I think we could show a bit more, go more forward. In the first half we defended well, but our offensive game was not up to par. We had some opportunities, but after they scored 1-2 goals, the game was under their control. We tried to high press them, but it was very tough. After all, they are currently one of the best teams in the world. We were in deep cover, and there were not enough moments, just like Mori had in the first half, where we pushed forward. These moments were too few and far between. We couldn't keep the ball after recovering it on our own side and move the play to their half of the pitch. Chelsea was closing us down and created one-on-one opportunities on the wings. In the first half they did not create any major dangers, but after the first goal we got a bit lost and we let go of the ball in the middle of the pitch.
And with this we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.